What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today we are having a look ahead to Game Week 23 and 5 key transfer targets you need to consider for your FPL teams. What is up, everyone? FPL Harry here, and today, Game Week 23 top transfer targets time. 5 players I think you need to be considering buying into your teams at a variety of price points, a variety of positions as well. We will also be talking about double Game Week 23 and who the top assets I think you should be owning from Arsenal and Manchester City are. Before we go any further, please do not forget to drop a like on the video, subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and let's dive into it. Before we get into my top transfer targets for you all, we need to discuss the announcement that we had yesterday evening of double Game Week 25. So of course we have the double in Game Week 23, which is really where we'll be focusing on. However, we do need one eye now on the double in Game Week 25 as well that got announced. This included Liverpool, who will play against Crystal Palace and Wolves playing against Fulham and then against Liverpool, and Arsenal playing against Leicester, and then Everton playing against Aston Villa and Arsenal. So 2 fixtures there added in: Liverpool, Wolves, and Arsenal against Everton into double Game Week 25. So key thing to notice straight away is Arsenal double in Game Week 23 and Game Week 25 as well. Some of those cheap options that you might have on your bench in like sort of Patterson and the likes of Bueno as well. Not necessarily sure they're in the starting lineups, but both of those clubs have a double. And some of those highly owned Liverpool assets that we've all sold in recent weeks, like Darwin Núñez and Mo Salah, we might finally have to be going back there for a little bit more pain. So going into the top transfer targets. Now, with the amount of doubles we're looking at, with the premiums that we're trying to get in, like De Bruyne, like Bruno Fernandes this week, and maybe like Salah going into the double, or Darwin Núñez as well, we are all looking for some cheap alternatives. Now, Mitoma has been that guy recently, but of course he has the blank in Game Week 25. So I'm here to present you another cheap alternative that you can be looking at in your FPL teams, and that is Leon Bailey. Now, over a long period, I still think Mitoma is a better buy, but of course he does blank in Game Week 25. Leon Bailey is playing up front for Aston Villa alongside Ollie Watkins. Now, Ollie Watkins has been the one getting returns, but they are scoring goals, and Leon Bailey is a consistent starter for them. 4.5 million in midfield playing up front. Now, he's predicted to score 22 points over the next 6 game weeks. The next 2 are difficult, Manchester City and Arsenal, but notice in the blank in Game Week 25, blank or double, I don't know which to say about Game Week 25 now, they have Everton away, also guaranteed to play in the blank in Game Week 28 as well, and pretty much guaranteed to play in the blank in Game Week 32 as well. So setting your teams up for the 3 blanks that we've got in Game Week 25, Game Week 28 and Game Week 32, Leon Bailey could be a fantastic midfield option to allow you to do that. Next up, the next cheap option is up front, and I still think Wilfried Gnonto at 5 million and 1.7% owned is the cheap forward that I'll be going with. Now, Leeds have sacked their manager. Of course, they are no longer managed by Solly March, so there is, of course, a slight bit of doubt about whether Gnonto will be in the new Leeds lineup, but he is their most creative player, the biggest goal threat at the moment. We saw that in Game Week 22, despite no attacking returns for him. Again, 1 goal, 1 assist since he sort of joined into that Leeds starting lineup. Of course, in Game Week 25 as well, they have Southampton at home. A good fixture in the blank game week as well. The only other one you could consider as well, if you are looking for that cheap striker, is Brennan Johnson of Nottingham Forest. However, I think it's worth saving the 0.5, going for Gnonto, who does look really, really good. The fixtures are mixed, but you don't need to start them every week. Again, if you are looking to strengthen your bench for the blank game weeks we have coming up, I think Gnonto is the way to go. Now, moving on to some assets, although the others are great for bench alternatives and can play in the blanks, let's look at some players that will be starting in your teams. The first one is 35% owned now, Martin Odegaard, up to 7 million, predicted to be one of the highest scoring players over the next few weeks. Of course, they have the double in Game Week 23, but Arsenal already have the double in Game Week 25 added now as well, with Aston Villa and Bournemouth, the 2 fixtures in between. We have the likes of Martinelli. You will be looking at him, you'll be looking at the likes of Ben White, thinking, I need nailed Arsenal assets for this run of fixtures, because those other ones, I just don't think they're going to start all of those games. And I think Odegaard, for me, is the number 1 Arsenal player you should be picking at the moment in your midfield. Those stats are so good so far this season. 8 goals, 6 assists. Of course, they didn't perform in Game Week 22 against Everton, but I do expect them to bounce back in Game Week 23 and all the way up until Game Week 26 as well. His price is only going to go up with the double this week. I really think he needs to be a priority buy for your team. So if you haven't watched my transfer plans video, here's one of the players I really want to buy into my team. Next up, we have his teammate. And again, for me, Odegaard and Saka are the top 2 Arsenal assets you should be buying into your teams. He is slightly more expensive, up at 8.3, which is why I'd probably just about favour going Odegaard for the value over going for Saka, but likely to be on penalties, depending on whether Jorginho's on the pitch and whether he's actually going to end up taking them. But I still think Saka from open play, if you watch Game Week 22, he was by far the most sort of creative and threatening player for Arsenal, despite not getting something. He did have a ball cleared off the line as well. So we have the double in Game Week 23 for Saka. We have the double in Game Week 25. 7 goals, 8 assists, predicted to be the highest scoring player outside of the premiums over the next 6 weeks as well. I really do think a triple up on Arsenal, and you need to be moving around if you need to get the best assets. And I think Odegaard and Saka are those 2. And finally, the 5th option, a cheap option going back down to a budget price, is Tarkowski. Now, of course, he scored in Game Week 22 in the new Dice Ball Everton. McNeil to Tarkowski. What a return to Dice life, Burnley life we have there, with all of them linking up again at Everton. We did expect them to look good defensively, and they did, and we know they're going to be good from set pieces, and they did again, and Tarkowski was good for them when he was at Burnley, hence the photo that we've got here. There was no good Everton photo, but I still think he should be a consideration at just 4.2 million, 1.3% owned. Not only do they have a good fixture in Game Week 25, which was against Aston Villa, they now have the double, which is also against Arsenal. Now, it's not great, but we saw what they did in Game Week 22 against Arsenal, and at 4.2 million, for me, he's the number 1 cheap defender you could buy. Now, some of you will also be looking at Max Kilman. Kilman is also a good option at 4.3 for Wolves, the cheapest defender you can get there now that Bueno doesn't look like he's nailed at the moment. These 2 are the 2 that I would be looking at. If you were wildcarding this week, I would own both Tarkowski and Kilman as your 2 cheap. If I had to pick one out of the 2 of them, though, I'd be going with the goal threat that Tarkowski has. So those are top 5 transfer targets. Before we wrap up, I want to rank my assets that I think you should be owning. One of the biggest questions we're getting is ranking the Arsenal and Manchester City assets going into the double. If I could free hit this week, I would own triple attack from both. Odegaard is my number 1 pick, as I mentioned, closely followed by Bukayo Saka. Nketiah would be 3rd. Again, I don't expect many clean sheets in this, maybe 1 for the 2 teams combined in the double. And I do like value offer that we have for Nketiah. Of course, we do keep seeing that Gabriel Jesus might be back in a few weeks. It keeps adding a little bit of doubt. So that's why I've gone with Nketiah as 3rd pick rather than bumping him up any higher. I do like Gabriel as the number 1 Arsenal defender as well. The most nailed, and he has the highest expected goals out of any defender so far this season. Now, when we look at Manchester City, of course, Haaland goes first. I've put Riyad Mahrez as number 2, just above De Bruyne, just based off value. You get an extra 5 million in saving, and De Bruyne is definitely not performing at the value that he offers and the price you have to pay for him at the moment. And then I've gone with Nathan Ake as the best defender. Now, as I said, if I was on a free hit this week, I would own triple attack from both teams. However, looking at a lot of your squad structures, I imagine that triple attack from both teams is unlikely to be the case, and it's unlikely to be a viable option. With that in mind, I do think 3 attackers from one team and 2 from the other with a defender of either Gabriel or Nathan Ake is an equally good way to go and use your transfers elsewhere in your team. So short term, if I was on a free hit, it'd be triple attack from both teams. If I had to, plan for the longer term, I'd probably drop Nketiah and go for Gabriel and keep the triple Manchester City attack. So what we've had a look at is double Game Week 25, which has been announced. We'll have plenty more doubles throughout the rest of the season as well. Top 5 transfer targets, some cheap ones to help you plan for the blanks, the doubles that we've got coming up, plus some real high power ones like Odegaard and Saka, and how I think they're bordering on essential going into these couple of doubles they have on the horizon. And then of course here we've got the ranking of the best double Game Week 23 assets from both Manchester City and Arsenal. If you have enjoyed the video, do not forget to like, do not forget to subscribe if you have not and you are new around here as well. 60% of you watching are not subscribed. If even one video, all of you could hit that subscribe button, we would hit our target for the season. Thank you all so much for watching. Good luck in the remainder of Game Week 22. That match takes place tonight. Hopefully triple captain Rashford can continue on the form that he has shown. Like and subscribe before you go, and I'll be back again very soon.